The evidence will show in this case that the scheme worked this way. The thief takes the first depositor's $1,000, and that $1,000 is just an example, and diverts it to his own use. He now owes the first depositor $1,000 in the time frame that he stated. I use the example of a month. The evidence will be that at the time of closing, which was typically 30 to 60 days away, that would be the time to return closing money. Rental money, typically a year. But he doesn't have it, so the thief has to get another depositor. So he solicits someone else to give him $1,000. Now he has the money in a month's time to return the first depositor's money. But now, who does he owe? He owes the second depositor. Same scenario. He needs a third person to give him $1,000 in order to pay back the second depositor, and on and on. So this goes on. This goes on as long as the thief can keep this moving. But at some point, and you will see in this case, at some point, Mr. Hatch ran out of depositors. And that date came around Labor Day of 2007. You will hear from Hatch's employees and an accountant who will tell you that Hatch had a high-end lifestyle. He had luxury cars, a waterfront house, kids in private school, and large monthly credit card payments. These large expenditures for himself made it difficult for Hatch and Doty law firm to meet its obligations. You will hear that the law firm was constantly in the negative. The law firm did not have enough money to pay for itself. You will hear evidence that rarely, if ever, did the fees generated by Hatch and Doty pay the expenses of Hatch and Doty. It needed a source of money. This law firm needed money from somewhere else. That somewhere else was from Coastal Escrow Service, the depositors who were putting down their money for real estate purchases and for rentals on properties. Hatch constantly borrowed or transferred money from Coastal Escrow Service, the depositor's money, over to Hatch and Doty. Remember, this money over on the Coastal Escrow side was just in one big bank account that said Coastal Escrow Services. So the money wasn't needed until Mr. Jones' closing came up, and perhaps he only needed $1,000. And Mrs. Smith's closing came up. Perhaps she only needed $15,000. But those were the obligations of Coastal Escrow, yet it had millions of dollars in deposits waiting for those obligations to take place. This enabled Mr. Hatch to borrow or transfer the money from Coastal Escrow over to Hatch and Doty. Rarely you will see did that money ever go back to Coastal Escrow. You will see that at the end of 2006, Coastal Escrow Services had $663,000 in its collectively in its bank accounts. Remember, it had 3 bank accounts there, the money market, the checking account, and the Gulfstream. At the end of 2006, the whole escrow services had $663,000. Yet they should have been holding deposits. You will see that there were depositors out there who had millions of dollars, or so they thought, within Coastal Escrow Service. If all the depositors had demanded their money at the same time, you will see there was no way that Mr. Hatch would have been able to pay these people. But again, the obligations were stretched out over time. And as long as Mr. Hatch was able to bring in new money, new depositors, he could pay the closings and the return of deposits to old depositors.